The 11th D-8 summit kicks off in Cairo, focusing on youth, SMEs and global challenges. Egyptian President El-Sisi inaugurates the D-8 summit, emphasizing discussions on Middle Eastern crises. And Israeli airstrikes in Syria and Yemen killed 9, targeting key facilities and power stations. It's 4 p.m. Cairo local time and you're now watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Cairo and the D8 summit. And now we move on to a live broadcast of the 11th Summit of D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation.
Quarrel among ourselves. Let us be honest. Let us be honest to our people. I'm sorry I have to say this, because I attend so many of the summits and all we do is give declarations of support. Indonesia will try to do its best in whatever we can do, but I call for unity, I call for cooperation, I call for let us, the Muslim countries, realize what is happening. We are not being respected. They do not care about our voice. Once again I say, they do not care about our voice. Human rights is not for Muslim people. This is the reality.
Thank you, His Excellency President Prabowo Subianto, the President of Indonesia, for his inspiring words. I invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Iran, to give his speech. The floor is yours.
In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. His Excellency Mr. Abdel Fattah El-Sisi, the Honorable President of Arab Republic of Egypt. Once again, I would like to express my gratitude for the efforts of Your Excellency in holding this important meeting with the presence of the leaders and officials of the countries participating in the meeting on the D8 and other esteemed guests, as well as the efforts and assistance of the government and people of Egypt to the people of Gaza and Palestine. Excellencies, honorable participants, today we have gathered in a situation where the West Asian region is in a very sensitive, complex and unstable situation. Now that we are passing the last days of the 14th month of the war of the Israeli regime against Gaza, we are witnessing the commission of a series of all the tragedies and crimes of human history against the Palestinian nation. And in addition, the Zionist regime has been carrying out brutal attacks in Lebanon and Syria in recent months. The aggressions of the past 1 year have not only deprived the Palestinian people of their rights, such as the right to independence, self-determination, security, well-being, and education, but today it has also taken away the right to eat and drink, to know the fate of family members, and to live without hearing the sound of explosions, especially for women and children. The severity of the crimes committed by the Zionist regime in Gaza Strip and the dire human and Humanitarian conditions in this area are such that it has deeply wounded the conscience of all noble people around the world and made the countries and international organizations to become vocal about them. There should be no further delay or hesitation to confront such widespread crimes, aggressions, and we need to place the issue on the top of our agenda with our synergy and coordination and come up with urgent endeavors to do so. The first step to stop these aggressions is to pressure this regime for a ceasefire in Gaza and to stop attacks on Lebanon and Syria. This should be the most important humanitarian and moral priority of the countries of the region and the members of the D-8 organization. The rapid withdrawal of the Zionist occupiers from Gaza and the West Bank, the facilitation of the arrival of humanitarian aid in Gaza, the arrangement of existing mechanisms for the return of people to their places of residence in different areas of Gaza, and the provision of the necessary arrangements for the reconstruction should still be among our priority demands and those of other international bodies. I would like to emphasize that the Islamic Republic of Iran welcomes and supports any Palestinian agreement that is acceptable to the all Palestinian people and groups and based upon the consensus of all Palestinian groups, as I said. The right to determine the fate of the Palestinian nation should be respected, and their intellectual and political maturity should be respected to determine their future and destiny. It is the same in Lebanon and Syria. In Lebanon, with extensive efforts to prevent the killing of civilians and innocents, ultimately the text of the ceasefire was finally prepared, and despite the resistance having some considerations and with the aim of consolidating the internal national harmony, it agreed with it, but unfortunately the other side keeps violating the ceasefire. We demand the creation of a safe environment in Lebanon and the return of people to normal life, and we request other countries to extend their support in exerting pressure on the Zionist regime to stay committed to its obligations and also to do the same with regards to the issues of reconstruction and normalization of people's living conditions and provide economic and infrastructural aid to Lebanon. The need to urgently deal with the situation of the displaced and homeless people due to the destruction of houses and urgent international aid to Lebanon is emphasized. And regarding the election of the Lebanese president, we also believe that this is an internal matter that must be agreed upon by all the political groups present on the political stage of that country. In the case of Syria, while strongly condemning very strongly the Zionist regime's attacks on the infrastructure and properties of that country and expressing complete disappointment at the silence of international organizations and bodies, especially the United Nations, regarding the aggressions of this regime and the occupation of the territory of Syria. We demand the complete withdrawal of the occupiers and the restoration of stability and security to this country. We believe in the participation of all groups and their contributions and the other factions, all factions in the future government of Syria, and respect for the good neighborliness and constructive relations with the Islamic world and the countries of the region, as well as the respect for different beliefs and religions in Syria. We strongly believe that the diverse religious beliefs and faith of the Syrian people should be respected, and the followers should live together and join hands to guarantee the stability and security of the country. We demand respect to be shown to the private property of people and public places and protection of the property belonging to the government of Iran in Syria, and hold the group that controls Damascus responsible for this. In conclusion, I would like to present some proposals of the Islamic Republic of Iran on the issue of Palestine for the consideration and decision of the members as follows. Number 1, creating a support program for the D-8 organization regarding Palestine, focusing on meeting the development needs and reconstruction of Palestine. 2, forming the contact group of D-8 to accompany the contact group of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in the international pursuit of stopping the war against Gaza and sending international humanitarian aid to this region. 3. Establishing a D-8 fund for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip and Lebanon and the rehabilitation pertaining to its residents. 4. The need for the support of the members of the organization to recognize the Israeli regime as an apartheid entity, and as well as joint efforts of the member states to revive the Resolution 3379 of the United Nations General Assembly. Number 5, forming a joint legal committee of the members of the organization in order to provide legal support to Palestine in the current international legal campaigns in the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court, and to prosecute the Israeli regime officials and the murderers of more than 17,000 innocent Palestinian children. In conclusion, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope that the achievements of this meeting will alleviate the problems and pains of the oppressed people of Palestine. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was a live broadcast of the 11th Summit of D-8 Organization for Economic Cooperation, which is being held in the new administrative capital under the title Investing in Youth and Supporting Small and Medium Enterprises towards Shaping the Economy of Tomorrow. The 11th D-8 Organization for Economic Cooperation Summit has begun in Cairo with leaders from member states Egypt, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Iran, Malaysia, Nigeria, Pakistan and Turkey attending. Egypt, chairing the group until 2025, is hosting the summit under the theme Investing in Youth and Supporting SMEs, Shaping Tomorrow's Economy. Discussions focused on addressing global economic and political challenges, with bilateral meetings also planned to strengthen economic and social ties among the developing member nations. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah El-Sisi has inaugurated the D-8 summit in Egypt's new administrative capital, calling for enhanced cooperation among developing countries to address global challenges. Assuming the organization's rotating presidency, El-Sisi introduced initiatives focused on diplomacy, youth innovation, economic collaboration and healthcare. He emphasized the importance of investing in youth and supporting small and medium-sized enterprises. El-Sisi also stressed solidarity, shared experiences and sustainable development. In his remarks, the Egyptian president announced Egypt's ratification of the preferential trade agreement under urgent discussions on the escalating crisis in Palestine and Lebanon. The Developing 8 Summit for Economic Cooperation has issued the Cairo Declaration after it was approved by the summit's leaders. The D-8 Cairo Declaration reaffirms the commitment of members to sustain agriculture, or rather sustainable agriculture, addressing climate change and enhancing cooperation in science, technology and innovation. Participating countries also agreed to improve logistics, supporting emerging sectors like digital commerce, and promote inclusive growth through small businesses. They will also focus on boosting investment, increasing intra-G8 trade, and strengthening multilateral cooperation. Their priorities include equality, the rule of law, democracy, and advancing common development goals based on peace and justice. The Secretary General of the Developing 8 Organization for Economic Cooperation, Abdul Qadir Ibrahim, has thanked President Fattah El-Sisi for the warm hospitality. In his remarks during the 11th D-8 Summit, Imam emphasized efforts to empower youth and foster development. He also stressed the importance of strengthening cooperation with member states, partner organizations, and the United Nations in relevant fields. He He also said that focus should be placed on the shift towards a green economy and supporting our own organizations. Additionally, he urged genuine support, partnerships and empowerment for small and micro projects led by youth. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has emphasized the need for Palestine's full UN membership to ensure regional security and stability. In his speech at the 11th D-8 summit in Cairo, Abbas condemned the daily massacres and genocides faced by Palestinians, calling for the immediate implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2735 to end the violence and allow aid. He also highlighted the importance of supporting UNRWA and empowering youth and women for national development, while urging international intervention in Lebanon and Syria. Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul-Ghait has stated that the D8 summit is taking place amid growing global crisis. In his speech, he emphasized the Arab League's focus on regional issues, especially economic development. He highlighted how current transformations are pushing the world towards trade wars and protectionist policies, posing new challenges for developing countries. Abul-Ghait also affirmed that Arab nations possess significant resources, wealth and experience to face these challenges. The Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Hussein Ibrahim Taha, has stated the Developing Aid Summit convenes at a critical moment due to fast-moving global events. Speaking at the summit in Cairo, Taha announced the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the OIC and the D8. He also addressed the situation in Gaza, condemning Israeli actions in the region as violations of international law and humanitarian norms. And for more analysis, we now move on to Mark in our newsroom. Mark?
Thank you very much, Rana. Yes, for more analysis of the D8 summit today in Cairo, we're joined from Cairo by the Al-Ahram newspaper managing editor, Gabriel Afifi. Thank you very much for joining us. So how important is the D8 summit? What is it for? What's its purpose?
Definitely, this summit is greatly important. This summit and the organization specifically attempts to achieve consolidation in cooperation between the member states and to further enable the youth in the member states. As well, the summit tries to provide aid and support to the most vulnerable categories of society in the 8 member states. In fact, this summit as well attempts to deliver state-of-the-art technology to the 8 member states and to as well promote cooperation between the member states and to provide an atmosphere of prosperity and welfare to the peoples of the 8 member states. Of course, at this point in time, there are a lot of challenges facing the Middle East. And so the convening of this summit is now a timely occasion, since each and every one of the 8 member states holds a lot of weight that it can play major roles, in fact, in the operationalization of resolutions for the Middle East crisis. As well, we have been seeing the demolishing of the entire military infrastructure of Syria. And right now we have around 14,000 kilometers right now controlled in Syria and so by Israel. And so the summit attempts to galvanize and consolidate the efforts of the 8 member states in order to counter the Israeli aggression in Syria and elsewhere in the region. As well, I'm not just talking about Syria, I'm talking about Palestine and the Gaza Strip, which has been entirely destroyed. And we know that more than 50,000 Palestinians were murdered and 800,000 others were injured. And we know that almost the majority of the vital infrastructure of Palestine was demolished by the Israeli occupation forces. And so the summit attempts to counteract this Israeli aggression and to minimize the expansion of Israel into the region as well. President
Thank you very much.
Thank
you so much. That was Qnews Fifi, the managing editor of Al-Ahram newspaper. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. And it's back to you, Rana.
Thanks, Mark. And now we move on to the latest developments in Syria. Israeli airstrikes in Syria have killed 9 people, 7 in the port of Salif and 2 in the Ras Isa oil facility, which are both located in the western province of Hodaydah. Israeli strikes also targeted 2 central power stations south and north of Yemeni's capital, Sana'a. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz vowed on Thursday after unleashing airstrikes on several areas of the Arab country overnight that Israel's long hand will reach the leaders of Yemeni's Houthi movement. Yemeni's Houthis group has reported launching 2 ballistic missiles on military sites in Tel Aviv using Palestinian 2 hypersonic ballistic missiles. According to Houthis military spokesman, the attacks were carried out simultaneously with the Israeli attack on Yemen. Israel has conducted what it called precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen after a missile was launched from Sana'a at Israel earlier in the day. Spokesperson of the occupation forces, Daniel Hagri, said in a statement that the targets included ports and energy infrastructure in Sana'a.
And its citizens from the Houthis attacks. The IDF conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets.
Hamas has called for Israel's strikes on Yemen a dangerous development. Hamas said in a statement that they regard this escalation as a dangerous development, an extension of aggression against Palestine, Syria, and the Arab region. Six Palestinians have been killed and others were injured in the Israeli occupation's artillery shelling of a Nuzha street in Jabalia el-Balad, north of the Gaza Strip. Since this morning, Jabalia camp has witnessed successive airstrikes by Israeli warplanes, which are blowing up residential blocks in El Khalifa, coinciding with the continuation of artillery shelling and gunfire. Three Palestinians have been killed and others were injured when the occupation bombed the gathering of citizens in El-Sisi camp west of the Gaza city. In Gaza, medics said at least 13 Palestinians were killed overnight in separate Israeli airstrikes, including in 2 houses in Gaza City and a central camp. According to medical sources, emergency services are still unable to reach many casualties and dead bodies trapped under the rubble or scattered on roads across the Strip. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we have been covering. The 11th D-8 summit kicks off in Cairo, focusing on youth, SMEs and global challenges. Egypt President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi inaugurates the D-8 summit, emphasizing discussions on Middle East crisis. And Israeli airstrikes in Syria and Yemen killed 9, targeting key facilities and power stations. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.